Hey everyone, thanks for joining for another episode of Coffee and Divorce Chat. This is Kay, your host. I am so pleased to have a wonderful guest joining us today. Her name is Miss B.F. Glenn. Hey B.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well, doing well. So good to have you join Coffee and Divorce Chat. I have enjoyed all of our conversations, and I know that everyone is going to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted by our chat today. But before we get into that, you guys, let me tell you about Miss B. So B.F. Glenn is the CEO of Sixth Sense Publishing. So that's right. She's her own boss, or she's her own CEO, however you want to interpret that. And she's also the founder of Global Society for Aspiring Writers. And her philosophy is, and I quote, build a foundation that the next generation can stand upon. And by the end of this episode, you will definitely know that she lives by that quote. So, hey, B, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I am doing well. And just in case our listeners they're listening, they're not watching this video, I have to tell you what her shirt says. It says, I write, I edit, I publish too. Are you selling those shirts? Did you find that shirt someplace?
I purchased it for me, and I was going to do one for my son. So I'm not selling them, but this is my thing. I do have other stuff that I sell, but we'll get into that maybe another time.
That sounds good because, I'm a professor and I write. I don't publish as much as I probably should because it's so hard out there to publish in the world of academia. But so this is like my nerd hour, my intellectual curiosity hour. We have found that we have a lot of things in common. We also think along the same lines too as well. And we also have some different perspectives on things. But so I love that shirt. I love it, love it, love it. And then, of course, I have to ask the other question. What do you have in your coffee this morning? What are you drinking?
Awesome. So this is tea this morning. And this is I usually drink my coffee black. I really don't have a preference as to what type of brand. But I have gotten into the habit of drinking more tea because I hear that it's healthier for you. And I'm trying to walk into 40 next year healthier. So this is tea this morning. And a coach gave me this, a spiritual coach, like a yoga teacher,
Okay.
to help me open up my chakras and stuff. She actually makes it. So she goes to the store, she puts it in the tea bags and stuff. So I can't tell you, I know it's herbal tea, but I couldn't tell you like what else is in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks delicious, and that's a good way to start our conversation about walking into this year, healthy, and what does that look like? And the title of this episode, I always ask my guests, I give them some examples of what I think that, we'll title this episode. So share with everyone what we're going to be talking about today.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about uplifting women particularly, but it also can apply to men, but uplifting women and unapologetically telling their story, having them to be unapologetic when they tell their story.
Amen to that. And that's why I wanted, I just love that because lately on my IG podcast page, I've been posting about being authentic and being authentically you. And as you navigate this holiday season, the cuffing season, that lasts for a couple of months because we have Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Valentine's Day. I think it's challenging to try to be someone that you're not. Maybe even trying to do some things that you probably should not be doing, just to convince somebody to be with you. And whether it's like someone from the opposite sex, whether it's your friends, your family, things like that. And sometimes we just need to take a break and just be ourselves, because sometimes I'm starting to really, if you choose yourself, you be yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to attract that energy, right? That's what we want to have happen.
Yes, that is so true. And it's, when you are yourself, you don't necessarily have to remember who you're trying to be. It just comes naturally, and everyone has an audience. And so that falls in line with, being unapologetic as you tell, write, or live your story. It's natural.
I love that. And I can see even when we had several conversations, the writing, the words, it's just like how Pontifications is always great. There we go. So let's start with that. Tell us share your divorce story, share with us what you want to know, and especially how you intertwine, your life as a writer, and then we'll go on there to talk about empowering women. But what is your story?
Absolutely. So my story is that I am a two-time divorcee. I got married the first time, almost fresh out of college. And he was a really great guy. I can't say anything bad, but it just wasn't a fit for me at the time. I think that I have a lot of ambition, a lot of drive. And so the whole idea of at 23, 24, all of a sudden I'm submitting to someone and I'm caving into the idea of having children, and my life is now, following a man. It didn't work for me. And so that marriage, though there were other things that played a part, that marriage did end up falling by the wayside. And I waited a while to begin dating and getting serious with someone else, because that was very tough. The trauma that I experienced, that I'm sure a lot of other women experience when they go through a divorce, hit me hard. And what I mean by trauma is I felt like I was asking society for permission,
yes,
for me to divorce someone I was no longer in love with. The banks wanted proof of my divorce decree. To change my name back, I had to show proof of divorce decree. I had to go to the Social Security Administration. Meanwhile, he stayed the same. It was just the divorce decree, and he's all
keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Yeah. So the woman, especially if she takes on his last name, goes through a bit more to get her identity back, to get her life back. And that in itself, whether it's spoken or unspoken, is embarrassing. Especially when you're younger, and because no one walks into, we had a big marriage at a mansion here in Mitchellville, Maryland. And people bought gifts. People were excited. It was a fairy tale wedding, and to then go back, and say it didn't work out, and to have family and friends who had high expectations for you that spent whatever amount on a gift. It was embarrassing to then have to go to a bank and say, yeah, I'm getting divorced. At the time, it was traumatic for me. So I waited a while. I just dated around, focused on my career, because I've always been academically driven and career driven. Those are two things that are a staple for me. And then about 5-6 years later, I met a gentleman and we started dating, and I fell in love again. And it was different. It was a different vibe this time. It felt like it could last, because in my mind, I'm rationalizing that I'm older. In my mind, I'm also thinking, well, I've gone through marriage before. I kind of know what it looks like. And the things that I didn't do then, am I willing to do now? So I did not want to get married initially, though those thoughts were going in my head. But we found out we were pregnant. And I asked him, and I said, I'm willing to have this baby without us being married, because I know if it doesn't work, I know the work that is involved to get out of the marriage. And he was okay with it. But somewhere along the hormonal journey of being, I said, I don't want to have a different last name than my baby, or my baby to have a different last name than, my husband. I didn't want the confusion, because I come from a 2-parent household. Parents are still married. Yeah. I don't know anything. I don't know what a broken home looks like. I don't know what co-parenting looks like. So when I thought about it, I said, well, I want my child to have what I had.
What I had, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so we ended up getting married. It was a shotgun wedding. And we ended up just going to the courthouse and getting married when I was 6 months pregnant. And I thought it would be okay. But one thing that I learned, and people don't talk about, is kids change the dynamic of a relationship.
Yes, they do.
Although I was prepared to handle the things that I probably wasn't ready to handle in my first marriage, we're throwing an entirely different dynamic in of a child where he's a more strict parent and I am more lenient, don't touch my baby, that type of thing. And we're bumping heads constantly, right? And that's when you bump heads over a child, it's different than bumping heads over finances, over whose car is going to get fixed first. It's different than that because you're protecting a human being, or so you think you're doing what's best for that small person.
Especially if you're the one who carried the child and is not knocking, fathers at all. But sometimes that's where that motherly instinct comes in for those of us that have that and can tap into that nurturing with that. Yeah. And I never forget my mother telling me one day when my daughter was young that because my ex and I saw differently. So we were the opposite of what you and your ex was. And my mom was like, well, someone has to be the nurturer and someone has to be the strict parent. And she's like, and sometimes you're going to flip and sometimes you're going to be the same. And I had to think about how I was raised 2-parent household. But at the time it was very steady where this was going, at the time. But I would say as she's gotten older, and that was an issue, a little bit of an issue in our marriage in terms of how we saw raising her and what we saw exposing her to, but now co-parenting is very different. He is right there on the same line with me, with a lot of, it's very different and a little bit surprising to an extent with some things, but also he wants to be a good dad. And so there is a story I had to write about co-parenting. I thought a lot about writing my own divorce story. And we're going to get into that about how you empower women. I would love to maybe focus on co-parenting, what that looks like, because there are various ways. I agree with you. There are some things that people don't tell you about parenting when you're married and co-parenting when you're divorced, and then co-parenting. I don't know what that's going to look like. And that scares me if I get married again in a blended family and what that process will be. But continue on. And so that was an issue. And so then that's what led you to make the decision to end that
was part of it. There were some other things. As I said, I was always academically and career driven. So, there was the aspect of me not wanting to take on so much responsibility that we all know women take on when there's a brand new baby there. So, the responsibilities of a newborn, but then the constant phone calls while I'm at work. Hey, where's the diapers? Hey, and you're like, wait a minute.
The frustration.
Everybody calm down. We really need to get on the same page. And it just caused a lot of friction because it wasn't jiving with where I saw my life, the life that I was trying to build, And so, and then we dealt with, obviously, the struggle where my son would wake up every night and he's at the foot of my side, right? And he's nowhere else but there.
They never go to the other side.
So we dealt with, our issues and we had other issues. Overall, good guy. Just again, not right for the way I want my life, the way I want to lead it, the way I want to live it. Just not right for me. So we divorced when my son was about 4, 5. Maybe we've been divorced for about 3 years now, so about 5 years old. And I wanted to end it sooner than later because the last thing that I wanted to do I already saw it was difficult. I already saw that I was living something that I knew no one else in my immediate circle of family was doing. There's no manual on it. So I just knew that I kept hearing people say as the child gets older, they will blame themselves. And, they may think that they are the source of contention in the relationship because they can understand a little bit more, but not.
They can feel the energy.
Mm-hmm. So I said, he's young. Let's get him. And so from there, I just, I dated, I went on, my home, I flourished in my career. I've owned more properties by myself than I ever did. And those are things that I do pat myself on the back on because I did not allow myself to fail. I did not allow myself to feel sorry for myself or pity myself. I pushed through and I elevated, and that right there is something that I see as an achievement. And it was powerful in me getting myself back, getting B back, and I said to myself, now I do have a love right now who I'm in a relationship with this gentleman. He is amazing. However,
so sweet.
Yes, he's absolutely hands down amazing. But I say, you know what, B? So were the others, and so we're just staying here. Taking
your time.
Yeah, we're just staying here. Not until I'm older. I'm talking a decade or two from where I'm at now, will I consider making another commitment like that, because I do know that we're still young and I'm not going to be the same, 10, 20 years from now as I am now. I'm not going to think the same. I'm not going to have the same desires, and neither will he. So I'm enjoying the ride right now, and that's where I am.
Well, let's unpack that. Let's stop right there and unpack. I'm going to go back to something you said. I did not allow myself to fail. Mm-mm. So one of the questions I have for you is, and I think I would love for you, is that what has led you to create this group, this society to help women with writing, telling their story? Because I journal, and I think that there is power in journaling. And I've had people, I've had men say to me, like, are you writing about me? Or do you write your whole day down? And I think until you really get into and understand it, that people have this misconception of what journaling is, especially for women. And I've shared with them, like, no, I'm not really writing about you. It has nothing to do with you or anybody I'm dating. It's about me and how I process. And I can't tell you, like, no, I never took a class on journaling. But what I know is that when I don't journal, and there was a time in my marriage, I've journaled ever since I was in high school. My mother did it. Yeah. And she was the one who got me into it in high school. And so in my marriage, there were probably maybe like 3 years, the last 3 years of my marriage, I did not journal because 3 or 4 years, because I was going through so much, I couldn't even write about it. And I have looked back to see when I stopped. And then when I picked up again was about a year into my separation when I started journaling again. But I just could not, at the time I didn't think, there were a couple of times when I realized I wasn't journaling and I tried to write and I just could not write. Right. But anyway, what is the power of journaling and how did that maybe help you with writing? Just remind yourself that you're not going to allow yourself to fail.
Right. So I myself also journaled. I feel like I was born a writer, hence the companies and the, memberships that I'm doing. So I've always written, and I have journals that go way, way back. I can tell you that I had slowed down. And so now my journaling, if I do journal, is more in a blog form or more on a Google Docs where no one's going to see it. Just because I need to get it out. And I remember at the time that I was going through my divorce with my son's father, there was so much built up because, again, here I am, it wasn't roses, they like, here I am going through this again. My family and friends, are like, what's going on?
What's going on?
I'm going to
it's you
with the scarlet letter. Like, it's me. You know how they do in Halle Berry and just and stuff like, oh, but she's crazy. No, We just need to not be married. That's just what it is. And so, I find it important to journal. It is powerful. Even powerful if someone is not able to journal, it is also powerful for them to hone in. And so what I do to hone in with myself is I connect with music. So at the time that I was going through my divorce and I realized I was unhappy and there were a lot of emotions that I could not necessarily put in words, I would go deep into a zone listening to, of all people, The Weeknd. I don't know what.
The Weeknd's pretty good.
Yes, he is. I went to go see him live in concert. Now that I'm in a different space, I'm like, oh gosh, it's all about drugging women and like it's all about that. But when I was going through, I didn't hear that. I just heard pain. His voice is just melodic. But he speaks of pain and I could feel it, and I was just going through it and I would just listen to those songs over and over and over. And in my mind, I'm going through scenarios of what I'm going through now. How am I going to move forward and get myself out of it? Which, when you journal, you're getting it out, right? You're thinking, processing, you're writing down. It's not just about what happened. You're writing down because as you're clearing your mind, as you're clearing those emotions, your mind is now able to have room to process and say, okay, next steps. After you journal, boom, I feel great. What's the next thing? Or
I like that.
I got that out. What's next? I'm ready.
That's how I see it too, B. Like, I clear my mind, I process, and it could be a couple things too. And I tell you what else, because I'm a person of words, and I know my words can hurt and help, and I'm more inquisitive, with my stuff. And so I had a tendency in past relationships, like even before I got married, of like just asking questions and why this and throwing something out there. And what I've learned in this new dating after divorce is that sometimes it's just good just sit and just listen.
Oh God! And
so I have used my journal more to write the questions I would want to ask or process the things, and then that stops me from sending the wrong text, or calling somebody that shouldn't be calling and processing that. But I love music. And so for me going through my process, Mary J. Blige with her Lessons, that album that came out when she was going through her divorce, it was around the same time of my separation. So I think she was going through the divorce process when I separated. Yes. And man, so many days I was listening to that, walking in. I remember my cousin was like, isn't that depressing? To listen to it on your way to work, and I was like, not really, but looking back, when I listened to her, I still listen to that album, but looking back, but it got me through. I think it's the way that people connect. So I love music, the way people are connecting with Adele right now, and her song and things like that. And she said that she's only going to perform that one song. I can't think of the name of it, but it's the one song she writes about her divorce, that she's only going to perform it once because she doesn't want to relive that pain, with it. And right now my artist is her and someone recently asked me, like, I don't get the her, combination, but I love her because she's talking about who she is in chilling with somebody, being comfortable with someone, and all these different songs, and also owning it and saying, yeah, I do want you to come over, and you drive me crazy and things like that. And so I'm like, yeah, I can feel that. So I love the fact that you give another option, because what it sounds like and what we're talking about here is when you're being unapologetically you, one way to get to that place is clearing out your emotions so you can process and you can start to make those steps where you can have this life after divorce.
That's right. You have to.
I like that.
It is essential for your growth, for your healing. It is absolutely essential to take that time to just check in. Check in, sit in it. You do have to sit in it. Whether you're journaling, you're sitting in it. When you're listening to that music, you're sitting in it. But you're also giving yourself a way out. You're allowing that to not, as you're sitting in it, you're also releasing it. And that's not contradictory. But you're sitting in it, and writing about it or you're sitting in it and listening to it. But then afterwards, you've released it and you allow something else good to come in. And that's how I view a lot of things in life. And it's just got me through. I am living the best life I've ever had. And I hope to continue building blocks on that. Hence is why I say, are you building a foundation that the next generation can stand upon?
Yeah.
If you just don't do anything with all of that trauma, all of that hurt, all that pain, you're not building anything. You're not, the cement's not even getting hard, And so you just have to keep stepping and keep moving and keep believing and just build. And
I know what you're saying can be applied to anybody, men and women, but definitely for women, especially if you are a parent, and just because there are going to be some days. I just recently saw on another, she doesn't have a podcast, but she has her own format talking about divorce. And, she was talking about the disappointments, things like that, but how she just keeps pushing. And then, and being that parent and seeing her child be able to flourish, and what does that look like? So tell us about how you try to empower women through writing, through journal, and what your company does. And if someone is looking at maybe writing their story, because I see several women that do have their own IG pages or podcasts about divorce. They talk about writing a book and a story. And is the market too crowded for any of these stories?
Never.
Or is there space for it? Tell us about that.
Never. And I'm going to tell you why. You and I can do the same thing and share the same message. But guess what? We're going to have room at the table to eat. You know why? Because some people are not going to like my voice, and they love the way that you deliver.
Say that again for the people in the back. Say it one more time. That you and I can have the same
exact message. You and I. Same exact message. Same strategies. But we will always have room to eat at the table. Because some people are not going to like my voice or the way that I present it, and they just love the way that you do. For instance, we're both sitting here and we're talking now. You may get some people that may think, wow, you know what? Beatrice talks with her hands too much, because I know I do. Let me just throw something off the wall. She talks with her hands too much. It's too distracting for me. So those little nuances, we don't realize that we're doing it. But there are people that we will automatically swipe, keep moving, because we don't like something about them. But someone else comes and says the exact same message, and they just like the way it's delivered a little better. So for me, I try to tell people that, no, it's not overcrowded. Your story will get heard by the right people, and you will help heal. You will help to transform. You will help to uplift the right people. Because they're going to be attracted to you. Again, unapologetically you, right? I also try to help women. I have talked to women who have helped to write their memoirs who are still sitting in that pain. And so they don't know how to tell their story without hiding behind scripture. I see that a lot. I respect that they find scripture as something to hold on to. When I was when I was leaving, especially my second marriage, apart from the weekend, I gravitated to certain scriptures to get me through. One of them, I have it here. You guys can't see it. But this is the one that I have not only plastered on my wall, I have it tattooed on my foot as a reminder, as I was sitting there in my dismay, as a reminder to keep moving. Don't you get stuck. And it says, Joshua 1:9, I command you, strong and courageous. Do not be afraid nor discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I have a good one. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. So hiding, I tell my people, yes, embrace the scriptures. Embrace the things that you're holding on to get you through. But don't make that something that you're holding on to in your story, and it's clouding your story. You need to be vulnerable. Address the shame. Address the hurt. address this trauma, address the fact that when you write your story, there are going to be people that don't like what you said about them in your story.
Yeah.
Oh, well. So what I do is I try to show people different ways. Your words are extremely powerful. Your delivery is your delivery, but I help them tweak their words. So instead of saying, that no good son of a gun done beat me from head to toe, blue and black, and I can't stand him, instead of saying what you really feel, I am here to help you filter that a little bit so that you can tell your experience, but you can also then, and I'll help you with the suggestions because I just can't help it. I cannot help myself. I cannot help myself.
Well, you're a writer.
I cannot help.
And you got the degrees in it. We didn't talk about degrees, people. She got the degrees in it too.
Exactly.
She's legit. It's not just someone says, I like to write on the side. It's like, no, she got the degrees to go along with it.
I've been doing it all my life. I got the degree, got the certificate, got everything. Yeah, listen, I will help you write it, but every negative thing that you may voice, you need to counter it with something, maybe two things positive. Because your goal at some point has to be to heal, to help, to provide positivity, to speak in a positivity. So if I could put this in context, I'm having a bad day. Let's just say I am. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I went outside. I was happy. Okay, well, I'm going to the store. I do the push start on my Jeep. My Jeep is dead. Nothing comes on. That was the start to my day. And I live further from my family than what they probably would like. So, and I don't do Uber or anything like that. So I'm sitting here like, oh gosh. Okay. And then in that same day, I had a client who was a bit demanding. Let's say that. You see how I use the choice of word there? A bit demanding that day.
Bit demanding. I like that.
Bit demanding, and it was an overall bad day. But you will not see me hone in on it. You will not, because you know why? You need to counteract that. You will not see me post about it. You will not see me talk. I might talk to one or two people about it, and then that's it. Because if I focus my whole day around these two little blurbs, I'm missing all of the positivity. And I tell people that in their message. You've gone through something. There's no denying that. You need to write about it. Because there's another woman or man who is going through the exact same thing that you've gone through. And they're looking for advice. And they need to know that you two relate. You two, you know their language. You know what they're going through. But after that, give them something positive to look forward to, or else you're just creating this downward spiral like how we see the media.
Right.
It's just so I mean, it's depleting.
Yeah, because any memoir, I teach classes on leadership, and when I've taught this class for undergraduate students, I teach for graduate students, but when I've taught with undergraduate students with my boss, who is actually an English professor himself, so it's always an interesting mix. So he's the one who grades the papers and helps the students like on that side of the case, and I'm the one on the other side. But we have selected memoirs, and we talk about that with students that, we've done Thomas Jefferson, we've done Oprah Winfrey, Malcolm X and MLK, and we talk about and select memoirs, so they're talking about their struggles and their challenges, but then also how they're uplifting and how they made it through. And that is sometimes the divorce market, or if you're writing that story, or relationship, if you've been in a long-term relationship with somebody, because some people don't get married, but they end that relationship. Yeah, there are more stories that are needed like that. And I also think there are more stories that are needed like that in the Black community.
Yes.
Of that, to take away the shame. My therapist, my good friends always say, you have a story, Kay, to share, which is for you have the Writing Society, and that's what led me to create a nonprofit. Both of us using our gifts, our talents, our interests, things that we do professionally and helping. And sometimes we don't see that mix. We don't see the mix between our professional and personal lives because we're in a way kind of told to keep it separate. But I've learned to have that synergy and sit in it and be comfortable with it, because I do know that my story, and I have an example for you too, when you're talking about sitting in the negative and how your story can inspire or empower people. On my nonprofit page, I talked about childcare and but basically co-parenting during the holidays. So you can either say, it sucks I don't have my child, I don't see them during the holiday, and sit, and just be negative about it. Or you can say, I don't have my child in the holidays, but this is what we do to celebrate and create our own tradition. And so I shared that, my co-parenting plan says this. It's hard waking up on Christmas Day or Christmas, the holiday, but this is what we do. And we have our own holidays. Like last night, she and I did one of the things that we've done because I don't see her for Thanksgiving with that. And I do believe that you have to sit in your feelings. And to me, here's a question for you. Yes. How you can see your healing and your growth. So sitting in my feelings 3 years ago when I was separated and going through the process before it was finalized, it was hard. It was like almost 2 or 3 days of sitting in my feelings, of just really pushing through, and honestly, maybe coming back the next week and revisiting it and slowly moving through that. Now, when I sit in my feelings, it literally is maybe for a couple hours. I'm feeling that way, and I can I wouldn't say easily move on. That's not the right word, but I can move on from that. And it, someday, and I was in my feelings over the weekend with something, but I didn't sit in that feeling for a long time, and I can navigate my way through that with that. So that is. There's something to be said, because sometimes we do want to run away from that.
Exactly.
And we do have to sit in that.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely. Yeah. And you hit it right on the head. So I know we both co-parent, and so we have it where that's another thing too that I love talking to women about, and particularly those who have similar stories, is because we don't have the courts involved. And that's not because we're perfect or stellar, but it's because sometimes one of us has to bite our tongue a little bit more than the other one does, to look at the overall, picture. And so we have an agreement where Thanksgiving, our son is with me, and Christmas through New Year's, he's with his dad. And that's because I don't celebrate Christmas or New Year's like that. There's nothing particularly special about that time where my son, just because I have to have him, needs to be with me. Let him go and enjoy the side of the family that will do great things and create beautiful memories for him versus, just mom that might do a thing here or two. We could do that any other time. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You have to realize the end goal as you filter through your feelings. You have to understand, who is this for when it comes to a co-parent situation? It's for the child.
Oh, yes. Yeah, anybody, exactly. What is the end goal, and what can you kind of put to the side? And there are times that, I agree with you. There are times when we did the original co-parenting plan, through the court as part of our divorce, process, and came to agreement. But we've had some adjustments we've made, and we've been able to do it between the two of us, and some conversation, with that, and not needing to go back to the court. I know everyone doesn't have that situation. And so, but if you can, to the best that you can, or finding, luckily, I have to put in a plug for this. Luckily, through my nonprofit, there is a co-parenting family mediation person. She provides this service almost basically free of charge. And so if you are listening and you do need some co-parenting advice, or you need someone to be a mediator between you, or you want some assistance, she is amazing. And I recorded with her last season. And so she has offered her services, for that, because not everybody can afford sometimes some of these services and these resources. And so what I want my listeners to take away is that here are some opportunities for you to, one, navigate your life after divorce, journaling, music, using words to tell your story and to sit in with that. And then also maybe looking for some organizations like myself, like my nonprofit or something like that, where you can have that network and that connection and seek the help for it, because we're both trying to, it seems like we're both trying to use our story and use what we experience to help others. Not to say that, I used to say that no one has to go. I don't want people to have to go through, and to an extent, what I had to go through. Not that everyone makes a choice to divorce for a reason, but if you make that choice and that's the road that you have to travel, then let me at least help smooth it out a little bit for you. Let me get you connected, for you. Let me help you write your story. If you're trying to let me explain to you how journaling can work, or this is, some things you can do. This is how co-parenting can look like, things that, things that we kind of knew, but we didn't know that can help others as well. Well, B, tell people how they can find you and what you have coming up and any cute merchandise you have.
So the merchandise is something that I just find fun. It's not the main goal of the business, but I've been getting into chakras lately. So I don't have it here down here, but one of the shirts, if you go to sixcentspublishingstore.com, one of the shirts has like a peace sign and it's in the rainbow color and it says chakras open. And I love it because not only is the rainbow symbol an all-inclusive symbol, I'm so into that, but also the rainbow symbol, it symbolizes the chakras, the different colors of the chakras. So it's really cool. It's my favorite piece right now. I have a mom hat that says mompreneur, get it done. Like everything that I wear would be inspirational, and I didn't know I was going to talk about it, so I apologize about that. But in terms of the actual business side of things and the writing and editing, again, Six Sense Publishing, if you want to, and that's 6 cents, so it's SIXTH, Six Sense Publishing is something that I created because I really mean it when I say I want people to tap into that other sense, tap into the thing that is not seen around them. So it's more than the physical. It's more than, you hearing, seeing, or any of the other 5 senses. There's something around all of us, an aura that I want everyone to tap into it. And that is my hope. So Six Sense Publishing, we do all types of written products. Again, in my life, in my career, it's all about writing and editing. I am a professional writer, editor. I write for agencies. I write for brands. I write for artists. So right now I took on 2 new clients that just came out the blue, and they are for magazines. And I was like, wow, nice. Oh my gosh, like this is so exciting. So I'm interviewing people for these magazines. That is something that they're rejuvenating, and they have some really hot lineups. So that's nice. Exciting. Let's see. I work with people all over. The United States and the UK is where my clientele really is right now. That's where the base is. And then the Global Society for Aspiring Writers is if you don't necessarily need that professional one-on-one service, you can go into the membership and you can learn how to write your memoir. So all of these years of experience that I focused on, I put it in training videos. I did. I took a lot of time. Listen, I took a lot of time.
I'm excited.
Videos. I put it in PDF printouts. I really put my heart and soul in it because it's a passion of mine, and I want to help people. And so it'll only get better. It will only get better. My goal is to network with people like you and other people who can lead that gateway open to provide that expertise in areas that I may not specialize in. You can reach me on Instagram, bfglenn_writer, and LinkedIn. I think it's just BF Glenn. But those are the ways to reach me. If you go to sixcentspublishing.com, all of my links are there.
Yes, and I will include all of the links to Bee's website, LinkedIn, as well as her Instagram page in the show notes on the episode, as well as on my podcast as well. We definitely have to do a follow-up and have a part 2 to follow, because I may be joining that Global Aspiring. Let me get through teaching this semester. Let me get through some other things I'm professionally writing on myself. But I definitely, because it is great to be in like a writing community, yes, and being with others, like-minded people. And I actually just recently joined a writing community, so I'm going to see how that goes too as well. But thank you so much for joining Coffee and Divorce Chat today, sharing your story, leaving us with some gems, especially I think, when I just think about what you do, and I can see the passion. When people watch this video, they're going to see the passion. They're going to also hear the words, because there is definitely power in our words. And this is definitely the time as we go into close out a year and go into a new year to focus on how can you be unapologetically you? How can you use your experience? I know my target audience are divorcees or those going through the process. And so don't give up. No. Don't be afraid to sit in your feelings. Your story is unique and is your own. And now is the time to really kind of just focus on yourself, because I always say that a better me makes me a better mom, a better friend, a better family member, a better sister, all those things. And so,
that's right.
Better, making yourself better.
Yes.
But I love this shirt. I got to go find that shirt. I write, I edit, I publish too with that, my fellow friend. But thank you once again for joining us. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay on and listen to see how you can support this podcast as well. Leave a star review. Take care, everybody.